I hope you're in the Halloween spirit because I have 20 brand new Halloween DIYs to share with you, most of them being Dollar Tree DIYs. I have two sections of this video. One section is going to be a little bit cuter, more kid-friendly, and then the second section is going to be that traditional gothic, creepy kind of DIYs. I will have everything timestamped below, so maybe if you're not into the cute stuff or not into the gothic DIYs, you can go ahead and fast forward to the DIYs that suit you best. In the beginning of the video, I have ventured into a new category called Spooky Cute. These are really adorable, more kid-friendly Halloween DIYs using fun pastel colors, bows, butterflies instead of bats, and overall just turning the scary season into a lot more of a cute scary season. All right, let's get started. Kicking off the spooky cute DIYs, I am going to be using a bunch of items from the Dollar Tree and one from the Dollar Spot section of Target. And I have affectionately called this the Captured Ghost DIY, and I'll explain it a little bit more as we start the DIY. So I'm starting with this glass, I believe it's supposed to be like a gumball machine or candy jar from Target. It was $5, but it's completely glass. I thought it was plastic, and I use it for another DIY later on. I think it's a great deal. For $5, you get some heavy duty glass. Next, I used some ghost little clothespins from the Dollar Tree and used paint to just paint them in the traditional ghost scents and put them inside of the candy jar. The black fabric I put down is called Creepy Cloth, also from the Dollar Tree. And I stuffed that down into the bottom of the gumball machine just so that the ghosts were up top and they had something to pretty much just be standing on. Then again, we got to add a little cutesy element. So I took some gingham fabric and tied it around the top of the machine and added a little bow onto our ghosts. My idea with this one is that the little kiddo ghosts were driving the mom ghost nuts, so she had to lock them in this gumball machine so she could get a little bit of peace and quiet. Captured ghost must just be my theme here because our next one is also going to be a captured ghost. We have Ghost in a Cloche. I think this is a more adorable take on something, a spooky specimen that you might find in more of a gothic apothecary setup, but this one is going to be our cute version. So to make the ghost, you can get any item. This was an old jar of some Waverly paint that I had, a little mini jar, and it was the perfect size, so I just covered it in white fabric, but you can use whatever you have pretty much around your house. I think even a clothespin would work. I hot glued the white fabric, which I did find at the Dollar Tree, onto that, and then I made a witch's hat. If you had felt, that would work perfect, but I did not have any felt, so I used some velvet ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I got it in the Valentine's kind of time period, but I know that they have it again for Halloween. I cut out a circle and then just another shape and rolled it into a cone and hot glued those two together to make the hat. It was super simple. And then I added on a little bit of silver ribbon and some silver beads that I had on a Halloween pick from the Dollar Tree. And that completed my little ghosty. I just added the paint. I think the little pink blush cheeks really add a cute effect. And then it was just time to paint the cloche. So the same color that I used on the ghost cheeks is what I painted the cloche. And I added in a cute little silver metallic star to just pop into her little apothecary setup. I don't think traditional bats are too spooky for Halloween, but if you did want a little bit of a cuter touch, I really liked the look of the black butterflies. I even added in some orange butterflies that had little bats on them. I found this in my Design Space app. I will leave it linked down below if you guys want the file to create this yourselves. But I really just wanted to include this to have the idea for all of you to, instead of doing bats, I've seen them all over Pinterest and Instagram, and they're very cute, but I did think that the black butterflies was a pretty unique idea that I hadn't seen too often. They're just as easy to create as the bats. You just kind of fold them a little bit to get them to have their wings up and easily adhere to the wall. And I did this just by adding a little bit of Scotch tape to the back of them, and they easily adhered right on the wall and the candlestick. I hate to have favorites in my DIY videos, but I cannot help it. I am absolutely obsessed with this little ghost village, and it's so easy and inexpensive to make. I'm really excited to show you all how to do it. I also created this Hocus Pocus sign by using a wood kit from my friend Liz Moore. I will leave her shop link down below if you are interested in checking it out. But I love this. It was originally supposed to be a dead and breakfast sign, but I just flipped it over so that I could add more of that spooky, cute touch and not have it quite so gothic. So now I am going to show you how to make these little ghosties. They are so easy to do. I thought they were going to be way more complicated, but I promise you can absolutely do it. I could not find any of the modeling clay at my Dollar Tree, so I picked up this large bag of, I think it was Crayola Model Magic. It was only $3.99 and you really don't need very much, so I'm going to have a lot to use on future projects. You're going to take what will soon be your little ghosty and just roll it into a ball. Mine kind of went all over there. And after you roll it into a ball, you will then take your finger and roll it towards the top so that you're pretty much creating a cone shape. You can see where basically the head portion of your ghosty is going to be. And then I just place it down on my table and kind of start molding it. And there you go. You have got your little ghost body. Some of my ghosts have arms, some of them don't. If you want your ghost to have arms, you're pretty much just going to do the same process. Take a very small amount of clay and form it into a ball, and then start to pretty much shape it into more of a cone shape. So it's a little bit meatier at the top and smaller down where the hands are. And then just stick those into the body of the ghost and pretty much just use the warmth of your fingertips to melt the arms into the body of the ghost. Now I'm going to be creating a larger ghost, so you'll just take some more clay, do the same process, roll it into a ball, and then using your finger, just roll the top so that it makes more of that cone shape and you can kind of see where the head is going to be versus the body. Then I just kind of squish it down a little bit more because I don't want it to be a cone head ghost. So I just place it on the table and squish it down a little bit. Make the mushroom pot, you are going to take a small ball and then using my pinky, I squished it down and pretty much formed it around my pinky. If you ever made pinch pots in art class, you're basically going to do that. And then once I had that rounded form, I placed it down onto my tabletop and squished down the ends, leaving the top having a little bit of volume, and then placed that on the top of my ghost and gently tapped it down. When the clay dries, it will have the mushroom hat still attached to it. To create our witch's or wizard's hat, I am doing a very similar process to what we did with our ghost, except this time we're going to make a much more dramatic cone. So I rolled it into a cone shape and then placed it down on the table, squished it down a little bit, and just kind of formed the wizard's hat top with my fingertips. And to create the brim of the hat, this was the easiest part. You were just going to take a little ball of clay and squish it down into a circle, and then place the triangular wizard's hat onto that circle. And then you can see the brim of the hat before you place it down onto your ghost. Next, we are going to add paint and bring a little bit of color to our ghosts. This is the part that I really think makes them come alive, or unalive, I guess you would say. To do this, I'm taking a small detailing tool and some black paint and just doing 2 dots and a small dot for their mouth. And then using that same pale pink color that I used on the ghost in a cloche, I am adding some blush or some rosy cheeks to our ghosts. Next, I'm going to complete the mushroom on the top of our ghost, so I added the same pale pink as the cheeks and let that dry. While that was drying, I moved on to the wizard's hat. I used a black color for the main portion of the hat, and then for the brim, to really differentiate it from the actual hat section, I took some of this metallic silvery paint and added that along the brim, as well as a moon and a couple of stars. Then once the mushroom top was finished, I went back over to that, and to really make it actually look like a mushroom and not like, I don't know, a pizza pie on top of their head, I am taking some white paint and adding the dot so that, again, it really looks like a mushroom. I am absolutely in love with my little ghost village. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below if you have ever done any DIYs with modeling clay before. This was my first time using it since I think I was a kid. Next up are some DIYs that I still consider in the spooky cute category, but have a little bit more of that traditional Halloween flair to them. And we're going to start off with this trio of pumpkins. I took these 3 pumpkins from the Dollar Tree and gave them some fun and bright pastel colors of a yellow, pink, and green, and added on some happy jack-o'-lantern faces to them. I completed the look by giving them each bows, 2 of them black and 1 of them gingham. I think the bows, the happy faces, and the bright colors are what make this traditional Halloween item spooky and cute. Frankenstein and a mummy tend to be some scary characters, but by using googly eyes, I think that we have successfully transformed them into a cuter version of themselves. I took 2 of the wood blocks from the Crafter Square section, and using a little bit of magic, I painted 1 black and 1 into our Frankenstein face using a dark green and some black paint. To really create our mummy, I grabbed some gauze from the, I believe it was first aid section, kind of where all of the toiletries are in the Dollar Tree. And to really create those rugged and messy mummy wraps, I just cut the gauze both lengthwise and along the wider side of it, just to create some longer, skinnier sections of the wraps. And I didn't even have to use any glue. It was really easy to pull the gauze and kind of manipulate it. And then in the back area of our mummy, I was just able to knot it or tuck it under some of the existing wraps that I already had. And what I think makes it a cute version is by adding these googly eyes. I don't think anything can be scary if it has these really funny googly eyes staring at you. So I peeled back some of the wraps and again, didn't even have to use glue. The mummy wraps were able to hold those googly eyes into place. Moving on to our Frankenstein, I had some smaller screws in my toolkit that I was able to use, so I adhere those to the side of our Frankenstein with a little bit of hot glue, and then it was Frank's turn to have the googly eye effect made to him. And again, with these googly eyes, they aren't too scary, but if you did want to transform these into more of the Gothic DIY, I think by just adding regular eyes, that would really up that effect for you. I'm telling you, I just could not get away from the googly eyes in crafting, and I was also so impressed with how the Dollar Tree gauze worked that I wanted to use it on another DIY, so I went ahead and made a Dollar Tree mummy candle. These glass jars actually held some Costco dessert that I had, and they have made really great crafting jars. So I took one of these that's going to be the base for our candle, and I just wrapped the Dollar Tree gauze all around. I went in with some larger mummy googly eyes, but I did decide to go with a little bit of a smaller one, and then I just tucked down inside one of the many tea lights that I have from the Dollar Tree and placed that down into our mummy. It looks so cool at night. I love that you can see parts of the lights shining through the mummy, and I absolutely love this as an alternative to the traditional candle. Next up, I'm going to show you how to repurpose an item for its intended use. We are taking some stemless wine glasses from the Dollar Tree and turning them into some monsters. We have our Dracula and our pumpkin. I grabbed these stemless wine glasses from the Dollar Tree, and the first one is going to be our pumpkin, so I painted it orange and also added a little bit of green at the top to be his stem. And next up is going to be our vampire pumpkin. So for him, I added some white paint and took a sponge brush and painted the entire inside of our wine glass. I would recommend, if you want to turn these into candles and place some tea lights underneath them, then I wouldn't go opaque with the white. I would just add a little bit. I also learned that if you added matte Mod Podge onto the outside of these, it gave a really cool frosted effect, and I wanted to do this for my Dracula, so I added that for him. The last step was just creating the faces. I did this using black paint. You could add whatever kind of face you want and really turn this into any monster. You could do another Frankenstein or even a mummy. I realized I had created quite a few smaller Halloween DIYs, so I wanted to create an item that had a bit of height and would really be a centerpiece that you could use for the Halloween season. So I came up with this adorable boo jar. The glass that I am using is actually a lemonade bottle from Aldi. So once I was done drinking that, I went ahead and painted it with some orange paint. This one is called Vivid Orange by Folk Art. And I also added a bunch of jute going up the stem of our lemonade bottle. The rest of decorating your bottle is entirely up to you and your own personal preference. You could put whatever saying you want on the bottle. I went with Boo, but I think if you paint the bottle black and put Eek on it and did a spider theme, that would also be super cute. Then I used a bunch of Dollar Tree supplies, the Dollar Tree Ghost and the Dollar Tree candy corn pick, as well as some of their more traditional fall leaves to create my whole vignette on the top of the bottle. I also created a triple jute bow and had the jute look a little bit crimped by unraveling it and giving that effect. Speaking of candy corn, I'm going to show you how to make this spooky cute candy corn pot. If you were like me, you might have picked up a bunch of the smaller clay pots from the Dollar Tree during the spring season, and I only used a couple of them. So to repurpose it into a fall Halloween DIY, I flipped the clay pot upside down and added the traditional white, orange, and yellow colors to create the candy corn effect. Then I just created my own little cartoon kind of face using some black paint and a little bit of red for the nose, and added on a cute little gingham bow that had some plain brown ribbon and of course the orange gingham to give my clay pot an upgrade. Next, I'm going to share with you a Happy Halloween printable that I have on Canva. I also have a couple other Halloween printables for all of you. I will leave them linked down below. Let me know if you end up using them and how you decide to craft with them. It's no surprise the Dollar Tree pretty much always has these wood beaded frames out for not only different seasons, but also for different holidays. So I grabbed this one when they had their fall supplies out, and I cut down some of this pretty craft paper that is black with pumpkins on it down to size. Then I took my free printable, which will be linked down below, and cut that into a smaller square before gluing it down to be the center of our DIY. This is a quick and easy DIY that's great if you want to have some of that festive Halloween spirit, but maybe don't have too much time on your hands. The time has come in the video where we are leaving the cute crafts behind and moving on to our Gothic Halloween DIYs. If you like how I have decorated my mantle with all of my Gothic crafts here, I am also going to have a video out next week where I'll be showing you how to decorate your mantle for Halloween as well as a tablescape. The first craft in the Gothic section of the video is going to be a DIY crystal ball using all Dollar Tree supplies. Let's get started. I saw that the Dollar Tree did come out with their own version of a crystal ball, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find it in any of my stores, so we're going to be making our own using an iridescent candle holder found near the floral section of the Dollar Tree, as well as one of these plastic bowls which I found in the party section. You get 2 for $1.25. If you aren't able to find the candle holders, I think a stemless wine glass would work, or even one of these plastic containers from the Dollar Tree. So to start off, I am going to be painting this party bowl in a metallic silver shade. I didn't even realize what a really cool pattern that there is on this bowl. It actually looks very celestial and really fit with the Halloween season. So I painted that entire thing metallic silver and set it aside to dry. I unfortunately did not have any purple lights or green colored lights, so an easy hack to fix that is I took some of my light strands from the Dollar Tree. And you could take a Sharpie, a marker. In this case, I chose a highlighter, and I just colored the lights in the purple highlighter, and you can see the difference. They really do light up in a purple color. You could do this with whatever color marker that you have. Then you're going to hide the battery pack underneath of our party bowl and stick those colored purple lights inside of a spider web and tuck all of that into your candle holder or your stemless wine glass, and voila, you have your stormy looking crystal ball, and it seems like someone is ready to read you your stars. Keeping with our Gothic theme, we are going to create this skull mirror. This kind of reminded me of a DIY I made last year in my mega Halloween DIY video. I'll have that link down below, and in case you didn't catch it, I did a haunted mansion mirror, and I love using the mirrors from Dollar Tree. I think they can look really spooky and great for Halloween. I took one of the candlesticks, of course from Dollar Tree too, and I painted that completely black, as well as 3 of the little plastic skulls from the Dollar Tree. I also painted those black. To connect the mirror to the candlestick stand, I just placed down some hot glue. You're going to want to hold it in place until the glue is completely dry, just to make sure that it dries straight. Then I created my skulls. My first one, I had a larger plastic skull, and then 2 of the smaller skulls that I am putting off to the side were some white glittery styrofoam skulls, but I just painted those black. You can kind of see a little bit of the glitter coming through, but I actually liked that effect. I also made the frame a little bit more black with some paint. It's had a lot of gold in it, and I just wanted the gold to peek through. And then I also created a shattered mirror effect using some vinyl, but you could use a paint or even a Sharpie. I wanted to show you the next DIY because it's a reversible one. You may recognize it. I used it earlier in the video to complete my spooky cute village. Then I just flipped it over and painted it with some more Gothic colors and made it a dead and breakfast. I already shared with you my favorite spooky cute DIY, but these potion bottles have got to be my favorite Gothic theme DIY because I used a new technique that I had never done before, and I am so excited to share with you how to DIY these potion bottles. So one of the bottles is from the Dollar Tree. I picked it up in the glassware section, but the other one is actually a container that had some sweets from Aldi. So I'll also show you how you can repurpose that. The same gauze that I used on my previous mummy DIYs, I am also going to be using on this. So what you do is you're going to layer down some Mod Podge and then place the gauze on top and gently kind of push it down into the Mod Podge, and then coat your brush again in that same substance and kind of just gently dab and poke down at the gauze. If you do it too rough, the gauze will try to come up, and you don't want to put too many giant globs of the Mod Podge down. Not yet. We will do something with that later. But for now, you're really just trying to push down the gauze and make sure it stays in place without having, massive globs of the Mod Podge that the paint we put down later might cling to. So here it is. These were some pumpkin wafers from Aldi. They were very good, but I am going to completely repurpose this. I thought the shape was awesome, and I just had it kind of laying around in my craft stash for things I might be able to use, and it worked out perfect for this DIY. So I'm doing the same technique, just laying down the Mod Podge, putting down the gauze, and pushing it in. Also, if for some reason you can't find any gauze, I saw online that also taking a paper towel and ripping little sections of it gives a very similar effect to the gauze. I want the potion bottles to look like they are foaming and overflowing with some substances dripping down from them. So to create this, I combined Mod Podge with some baking powder. It made a thicker kind of a liquid, and then I lined it around the rim of my bottles and kind of roughly tapped it down onto the surface I was working on so that it would drip down. I did this on both the bottle and on the the Aldi wafer rolls. And then once I did it around the rim, I also did it a little bit longer. You can really see that on the tin from Aldi. And once that was completely dry, it did take a while because those drippy parts are pretty thick. I went in with some black paint, and you kind of have to stipple it all around the potion bottles to really get in between the areas where the gauze is. And once that was completely dry, I did go back in with a darker gray and a lighter gray to kind of highlight where the gauze was, because once you paint it completely black, you lose a little bit of that dimension. So that's when I went back in with the grayish colored paint. And I loved these stickers from Dollar Tree. They were really cool jewels, but I just knew that it would be perfect for Halloween, very Victorian era spooky vibes. So I painted these black and then stuck these down onto the center area of both of our potion bottles. And after those were done, for the tin that was from Aldi, I also went in with a plastic skull and placed that on the top. I was loving that glass candy jar from Target that I used earlier in the video for the spooky cute ghosts, and I wanted to redo it, making it a little bit more gothic, kind of giving off those apothecary vibes as if these skulls have been encased and are just hanging out on a shelf in the apothecary. So very similar to how I started off with the ghosts, I am going to be laying down some of the creepy cloth from Dollar Tree. I liked this one. I hadn't seen it before. I've seen the black creepy cloth and the white creepy cloth. This one was gray, so it kind of had that aged effect to it. It pretty much just looked like black, and then like someone took some white paint. And then to make it look like the ghosts are kind of floating around in that jar, I tucked down some cobwebs down in there and then went in with my plastic skulls from the Dollar Tree and just laid them all around in there. And to give it a little bit more of that Halloween vibe, I think everything just looks cooler when you add in some twinkle lights. So I grabbed some of these lights and just stuck them down in amongst the cobwebs and the skulls to complete this gothic apothecary jar. This is another one of those quick and easy DIYs. If you don't have a lot of time on your hands, maybe you don't consider yourself too crafty, but you still want to get into that Halloween spirit. So we are going to be creating these spider cobweb candles. To do this, I am taking two different types of jars. This larger one is from the Dollar Tree, but the smaller one just contained a dessert from Costco. I am telling you, the Costco desserts that come in the glass jars, they are so great for crafting. But all you're gonna do is take some white yarn and wrap it all around the candle in no particular order or direction. We want it to look like a spider web, and you're just going to wrap that around and around. And then I was able to just tuck the yarn in the back, but if you can't, you can always hot glue it down into place. I could not find any of the black spider rings, only these reddish orange ones. So I just took some black paint to them to cover up their original red color. And then I just cut off the ring section before hot gluing them down onto my web. This is a great DIY to do with the kids because you don't have to use hot glue. You could just use some regular old liquid glue or even some tape. A gothic DIY video is nothing if we don't include a cool skull. This is an upgrade on a usual skull because ours had a very fancy former life and is covered in some gorgeous jewels. This is a really fun DIY to do, and it requires only a couple of supplies. So the first one are these large foam skull heads. I think these are really great. I've always seen them at the Dollar Tree, but didn't really know what I was going to do with them. But I really liked the idea, kind of a sugar skull. That's where I got some of the inspiration, but really wanted to bedazzle it up. To do this, I grabbed one of the sticker sheets from the Crafter Square section of the Dollar Tree. It has all of these adhesive rhinestones in different sizes, and the color of the rhinestones doesn't matter because we are going to be covering that up with paint. So I just grabbed a bunch of the rhinestones and started having fun just placing them all over the skull. Originally, you could see I had one of those larger stickers that I had used previously on the potion bottles, but I wanted to keep everything pretty consistent, so I just covered the entire skull with some of these little gemstones. Then I went in with black paint, being careful to stipple over the rhinestones, and then to finish it off, I grabbed some of that metallic silver paint I used on the crystal ball and highlighted the gems, the eyes, and even a little bit of our skull's teeth. I wanted to include another free printable. This one targeted a little bit more on the actual date of Halloween. I will have this link down below in a Canva URL, and I will also have the link to this project for Cricut users, so I'll have that one down below too. I love these wood signs. I found them recently in the Crafter Square section and was super surprised that you get this large wood sign for only $1.25. I actually think this is a really good deal when you compare it to products from Target and Walmart. And to have our sign all laid out, I picked this Maleficent vinyl pattern. I thought it really fit, nothing better than one of the original Disney villains. I love the way this DIY came out and think it's the perfect way to conclude our 20 Halloween DIYs. It's a little bit spooky, a little bit gothic, but a lot cute when you include the Disney villain. So with this DIY, that is going to conclude all 20 of my brand new Dollar Tree Halloween DIYs. Please make sure to tune in next week. I am going to keep rolling with the Halloween DIYs for one more video. I'm going to be showing you how to create your own Halloween tablescape, complete with your own table setting. And I'll also be showing you how to style your mantle in the Gothic Halloween way. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.